Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Rain Whalen.
And I'm George Steppenwolf.
What the fuck? Wait, are you...
Can I tell you what I was going to say?
Yeah.
George Stephanopoulos, and that's already a person. So, I think.
Is it?
I think so.
Is he? In? No. What made you go with Steppenwolf? Did you just recently watch Justice League?
No.
The Joss Whedon version? The superior version?
No, actually. Steppenwolf is a band, first and foremost. But because I was going to go with Stephanopoulos, and I go, shit, I can't do that. Because I think there is a George Stephanopoulos. It doesn't matter. But then I was like, what's closest to that?
Wait, isn't that fucking... No, it's George Costanza.
See, that's George Costanza. Yeah. You were thinking Seinfeld.
Yeah, Steinfeld.
Jesus.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Man, I don't know what's gonna happen this episode, man. This one's gonna be pretty heavy.
We'll see. I might have some hot takes that'll keep it entertaining, at least a little bit.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna be honest. When I was telling Ashley about the movie, I was like, this is like Requiem, but like more focused on the relationship rather than
Now,
drugs.
let me start off by saying there are two movies called Beautiful Boy, at least that I know of. There is one with Michael Sheen and Maria Bello, that I have seen. That is about a couple whose son shot up his school, killed himself, and then now it's their relationship and dealing with the aftermath of that. It's very interesting. It's a decent premise. I find that sort of that perspective fascinating because, you know, as we get a little bit of that when we need to talk about Kevin, where the son does something horrible, the kid does something horrible, what happens to the parents, right?
Right.
What is that like?
Right.
And so that's what that movie's about. From what I remember. So that's not this movie. This is a different movie.
No. Yes.
When you said Beautiful Boy, it's the first thing I thought of. I go, that's a weird choice.
No, we're talking about Beautiful Boy from 2018 with Timothée Chalamet and Steve Carell.
Yep.
Yeah, dude.
I actually did watch a little bit of this with before we get too heavy. With Haley. Haley would stop by every now and then and look, and she goes, I go, what? She goes, I know who that actress is. And it wasn't Amy Ryan, because we know that already. The other one. She was in Liar Liar. She's been in News Radio. She's been in a bunch of stuff. I don't remember her name at the moment. But she goes, I know her. I go, well, have you seen Liar Liar? She goes, no. I go, first off, you should. So, and then, I was going through the list.
First off, give me the ring back.
No. And then I was going through the list of her filmography, and she goes,
Wasn't she in Men in Black? Or am I confusing her with a different actress?
Yes, she was in the...
She was in the first one.
First one, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the second one...
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
The second one was Rosario Dawson, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, no, and so I was going through, and she goes, she was in The Office. She was Robert California's wife at the tail end of The Office.
See, I haven't made it.
Which is funny because I'd said, you're going to freak out once you figure out who plays his ex-wife. Because it's Amy Ryan who plays his wife at the end of... spoilers for The Office.
Spoilers for this.
A lot of Office people in this movie that she was pointing out. I think The Office is okay. I think it's fine. I think it's a fine show. I think fandom has ruined it a little bit for me. And so I'm a little hit or miss with The Office. As of right now, I think it's a great show, but I can't watch it.
I mean, fandom ruins everything, man.
That's true.
Like how the Rick and Morty fandom almost ruined Rick and Morty.
That is absolutely true, and also this podcast. Anyway, Beautiful Boy. What made you decide, and when did you first see this movie?
Well, I first saw it Saturday.
Oh, this was when you hadn't seen it.
Yeah.
Okay, weird. Oh, that's right. It's your pick.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jesus. Maybe we shouldn't do a 40 episode season.
Off the rails, man. I am getting completely
No, it's all good.
Anyway,
yeah.
That's right. Okay, so what made you want to choose Beautiful Boy then?
Why I wanted to choose Beautiful Boy. First of all, it was mainly for Timothée Chalamet.
Okay.
I hadn't really seen anything he'd done besides his one scene in Interstellar. And then we saw Dune. I was like, damn, this guy's got it. And of course, I'd heard everything about him, but then we did, Call Me by Your Name. And I was like, you know what? What else has he done? And I'd heard a lot about this, and then I watched.
Did you see Ladybird?
No, but I've got it.
Okay, he's in Ladybird.
Well, I also know he works a lot with Greta, because he was in her version of Little Women too.
Oh, that's right. I didn't see that.
Anyway, so then I saw a Variety video, Actors on Actors. It was him and Emma Stone, and they got to this movie, and she like fangirled out about how amazing he was in the film, and then how Steve Carell was so amazing in it. And I was like, okay, Steve and Timothy, okay. And then I did a little bit more research about the movie, found out it was based on 2 memoirs, a father and a son, which immediately right there is my jam.
Yeah.
Because, not to get too personal, but a relationship between a father and a son it hits home for me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm sold already. And then when we agreed that this would be the theme of this season, movies we'd never see, I was like, you know what? Perfect.
Yeah.
2 Timothée Chalamet movies. I'll space them out.
Mm-hmm.
And it just felt right. Like, now is the time. It's been a while since we've done Call Me By Your Name.
It has been a while.
So it feels like years ago.
I
It's
know.
probably only like a month ago.
I know.
But it was just time. And you know what? It was a rough watch, but I loved it. You know, I loved it from start to finish. And since I actually, and I'm going to call you out,
Sure, yeah.
followed through with your
Yes.
idea,
Yeah.
and I listened to the Beautiful Boy audiobook, it pretty much plays out exactly
I tried so hard.
how David, Chef, Nick's dad, how he describes exactly what happens.
Yeah, but we're gonna get into that because I do have a couple of questions. Because I tried to listen to Tweak, which is Nick's
One of
memoir.
it, as I learned.
One
Yeah.
of them, yeah. It was the second sort of secondary book that this movie was based on, and you get a little bit of it, especially with him and Lauren and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
stuff.
because Lauren's not mentioned in David's memoir.
Oh, she's a big deal in the book, and so is like there are some side characters in there that are on screen for literally seconds, that are big parts at least in the first half. I only made it halfway through. My job is insane. Listen, I don't want to make excuses. I messed up. I thought of the idea too late.
But it's fine because I mean I've got 2 hours left in the audiobook, and as far as I can
I have
tell,
like 7 hours left.
as far as I can tell where the story's going, or at least where David's memoir is going, it just seems like more of like the aftermath of how he was feeling
Yeah.
towards everything. But anyway, so I mean, we've kind of pretty much summarized the movie. It's a movie. Normally, I'd ask you to do it, but we've kind of already talked about it.
Yeah, I mean it's
A movie about a father and a son. The son has an addiction to meth and
mainly.
and essentially the fallout of that and what his dad goes through to try to save his son. That's Beautiful Boy. I mean, I kind of yada through that, but because we're gonna really get into it.
That's what synopses are for.
Yeah, but so where do you want to begin, dude?
Let's talk about man. I don't know who to start with. Let's start with Nick because
Because it's about
it is, but I want to focus on David later.
Okay.
Because I think we can talk a little bit more about David because you have a lot more knowledge of David than I do.
Yeah.
And we can go into that. So Nick is interesting because in his book, at least the first half, he describes addiction in such an earnest and very honest way that, he talks about how great it feels. Like, I mean, he's not going to wash over that. He's not going to pretend it doesn't feel amazing because it does, right?
Yeah.
And he talks about, meth, ingesting meth made black and white into Technicolor. That's what he calls it, right? And I believe it's in the movie, too, that he says that.
Yes.
And
yes, it's when he's when he's
I mean, that's how the book starts.
sober with 14 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how the book starts. Is he's like, dude, meth is like amazing.
Dude.
But of course, it ebbs and flows, and really it focuses on, the book is broken up into days, like day 1, day 2, day 6, day 100, day 300, right? Mm-hmm. So it's breaking out into days. Obviously I didn't get very far, but it's interesting because he does talk about those lows too, right? Yeah. But again, it's all very honest and it's all very the same. He's not favoring one over the other. He is literally just going, this is how I felt then, this is how I felt then, this is what happened then, this is what happened then, right? He mentions his dad a few times, right? But again, he's gone so much that David really doesn't play a big part in this book, right? It literally is his perspective, full stop.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, everything I read about Tweak, that's what it's about. It's all about Nick's journey, Nick's struggle. And of course it would make sense that his dad's probably barely.
Of course not, right? He's not going to like try to imagine what he's not writing a novel. He's writing basically a journal, right? So, and that's the book, right? So the book goes into a lot of detail about like him getting into prostitution, him frequenting gay spots and gay bars just to, get his fix, and he might also be bisexual. That's fine. That doesn't matter. But the movie doesn't hit any of that, right?
Yeah.
The movie focuses more on his relationship with Lauren, which is a big deal, right? Mm-hmm. The book describes that scene of them in the car, him trying to revive her, right? And him on the phone. Those are actually, it's like verbatim, right?
That is something that I could tell that the movie did. Yeah, verbatim, like from the Beautiful Boy memoir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so the movie focuses more on David's perspective, which I like, right? I like having the option to, if I want more of Nick, I can just read the book, right?
Right.
And it gives the movie a different feel to it, because now if you have that knowledge, you know where you're at, right?
Like that's exactly how I felt watching.
Right? Because watching, if I had done both, if I had listened to both memoirs and watched the movie, I think that would be the complete
story.
Yes, the complete epic of this story, because knowing where David is at this point and knowing where Nick is at the same point, right? No matter what the movie is showing you, you understand maybe nuances in performances or in the direction or in the screenwriting. You can see where they're focusing on Nick here because of this, right? They're focusing on David here because, right. I think it was smart to only focus mainly on David, because when you see a drug addict movie, you focus on the drug addict.
Right. That's why I felt like it was almost like Requiem had Aronofsky focused more on the relationship of Jared and his mom.
Yeah.
That's... I agree. I felt like
and less stylized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like had they focused more on Nick, people would have written it off as, oh, it's just another drug movie.
Yeah, it's another addict movie, right? And we'll get into more of the direction, because there are things that I loved about it, right? I don't know if I loved the movie. That's a hot take.
Okay.
I did read a few reviews. Again, swamped at work, didn't have time. But a lot of them said this movie is incomplete, which I thought was interesting because of how it ends, right? I think the movie gives you a lot of beginnings and ends. Right? And then it doesn't give you a final end, right? In a way, right? Again, it's a true story. These are real people that are still alive, that are still living life, right? Yeah. And so to end it in sort of a sort of semicolon, it's fine, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Because, spoiler alert, Nick is still alive. He is... as far as all my research I can tell, compare from when the movie was released to now, he should now be 11 years sober. As far as I can tell, he still is. He's still... I watched a 30-minute video of him actually addressing... That came out just a few weeks ago.
Interesting.
Addressing addiction and Like he was asked to speak about it for this,
Interesting.
and he's obviously more than willing to talk about it.
Obviously.
And yeah, so I do get that. I do, but since these people are still alive,
right. It's hard to give it an end, right?
A hard stop.
agree.
Yeah.
Right.
The end. Period.
Yeah, I think the way the movie was edited, I think you weren't expecting text, right, at the very end.
Neither was I. I mean, I was expecting them to say, Nick is now, sober and happy. I was expecting that, but
yeah, I was expecting it to be over because of the way the movie had been flowing.
Yeah.
Throughout. But anyway, we'll get to that later. Nick. So Nick is sort of an asshole. I'm not a huge... when he's on drugs, right?
Yeah.
I love that the film doesn't give you, like... it's so artificial, the sort of the reason or the moment he got addicted. I don't like that shit. So I'm glad that he is just addicted. You know what I mean?
And that's...
In a way.
Well, and that's something in David's memoir that he talks about, because David tries very hard to understand
like
his addiction and understand where it comes from.
The origin.
Because in the introduction, which is with the audiobook, it's like a 20-minute long introduction. Mm-hmm. He talks about how, when people found out about Nick's addiction, they were like, well, he comes from a happy home. He doesn't come from, a dysfunctional home. And David recognizes that their family is very dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And this is something that is shown in the film. It's not focused on, but it's shown in the film, which is, of course, Nick's parents, Nikki and David, are divorced. They got joint custody of him. And he had to, at a very young age, fly on a plane to go visit his mom, back and forth.
By the way, loved these flashback interludes, right? And I loved what he chose, right? Because it's almost like, and I've said it before, I'm sure, on the show, is I love the sort of flashback that it's not a flashback for the audience. It's like he has his memory now.
Yeah.
Right? And it has something to do with what he's doing, right? It's not just a flashback for emotional sake or for storytelling sake. It's a visual representation of his memory, right? Especially, I mean, ones that hit me the most, glad you asked. The diner.
Yeah.
The diner was a big deal. And they even sit on opposite sides, which I don't know if that meant anything or if I'm reading in, which we do a lot.
Yeah.
As in the memory is on this side and then in reality is on the other side.
Nick's on the other side, yeah.
Yeah. That one, of course, the airport.
I'll be honest, the airport, when he's saying goodbye to 6-year-old Nick, that got me. I was in tears at Ashley's Mama's house.
Don't worry.
I was trying to hide it because they were trying to watch their court cam shows, and so I was watching it on my iPad. So I was crying and trying to quickly
It's fine.
Well, Ashley was like, "Oh, I didn't even see you." It's like, "Okay, good."
Good. I was sobbing my eyes out. So I love that, right? Mm-hmm. And I like these little snippets of, and it's almost like he's screaming, "What happened?" Right?
Yeah. And that's a big part of David's memoir is what happened. Where did it...
Desperately trying to find the origin and finding... Yeah. And if he knows the origin, he can fix it, right?
Right. And that's something that the movie does talk about. And that's a big part of David's memoir is addiction is a disease. It's not a choice. It's a disease. But in these early stages of Nick's addiction, that's it. He's trying to, where did it start? Where can I fix it?
Right.
And it's through learning and attending
Al-Anon
meetings that he learns that it is a situation where he can help Nick, but he can't fix it. Nick has to be the one to fix it.
Yeah.
which is hard for an addict, as we see Nick struggling in the movie.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that got me the most was, you know, when Nick goes off to college, which is a big chunk of the book.
Is it?
Big chunk of, well, not I would say big chunk. It's a big moment in the memoir, because David feels like he's earned Nick's trust, or no, Nick feels like he's earned his dad's trust back to let him go to college, because he just got out of another rehab.
Mm-hmm.
And then he relapses.
Can I tell you Nick's version of that?
Mm-hmm.
I dropped out of college.
Really?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Really?
That's pretty
That's
much
wild.
it. He really doesn't mention college that much.
Like attending
Well,
classes.
and of course the story doesn't start there. That's past tense in this story in Nick's memoir. It focuses really on when he meets Lauren and stuff. Like that's really where it starts, and where, you know, a little bit before that, but
Well, and there's a moment in David's memoir, because Lauren, that name does not sound familiar to me.
that's okay.
But there's a moment in the memoir where David gets a call from someone from where they used to live, saying how Nick is helping her because she's been struggling with addiction, and Nick's been helping her. And David's like, because this is really in the throes of Nick's addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And David's like, Nick is also addicted right now. Like, there's no way he's helping her.
Yeah, he actually got her addicted to heroin.
Yeah,
meth,
and
so
well, David did change names in his memoir.
and so did Nick.
So maybe, well, and I think they used different names too, because
Fuck, they didn't.
I don't think
They didn't chat.
They didn't. Yeah, they're like, hey, I'm upset because the spot when Nick's in the program, when he's been sober for over a year.
Yeah,
In David's memoir, his name is Randy,
not Spencer.
not Spencer. Yeah.
Now, didn't get that far. Fun fact
Mm-hmm.
for all of you guys out there: Andre Royo
Who plays Spencer?
is Bubbles in The Wire, who plays a drug addict that helps the police every now and then
That's wild.
for information. And one of the best characters on The Wire, hands down, is Bubbles.
Uh-huh.
And seeing him again in this, I was like, oh man, that's Andre Royo. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I was so excited. So those of you who love The Wire, who hasn't seen this, check it out. It's a good performance from him, I think.
Yeah, but yeah, man, and it's so kind of what you were saying. Armed with this information, I knew exactly what was happening. I was
Right.
like, oh shit, this Nick's about to fucking relapse,
Yeah.
and I knew it because the movie really shows it, like exactly how. Again, it does focus more on David's memoir.
Yeah. Which, again, I think is smart. I think seeing this side of addiction from the loved one's side is very interesting. It's very compelling. And especially one that's so determined to help.
Well, and I love that the movie starts exactly how the book starts. So, I mean, David starts the book obviously with an introduction, and he throws a lot of information at you at once.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when they find out that Nick's been using again.
Mm-hmm.
It's when he comes to stay with them over summer break.
Oh, no.
And they find out he's been using. And he pretty much says, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah.
You know, it's the scene where, you know, he tells Karen, I don't want your help, okay?
Yeah, it's when he steals the $8.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yes. So that's how the introduction starts. But then the book, David's memoir is split into 5 parts. Part 1 is all about Nick's upbringing,
Okay.
which is, I'm glad they didn't focus on that.
I would have found that very boring.
Yeah. But then part 1 ends with Nick admitting he's done meth. And then part 2 begins right where the movie starts, with him with Nick being 18 years old. David can't force him to do anything anymore, but they still go to a 4-week program.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're in it. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I liked that. I liked seeing and knowing, like, okay, Nick has already admitted I've used heroin before.
Yep.
David's like, okay, you're going into rehab. And Nick saying, like, no, I'm 18 years old. you can't force me to do anything. But a part of him, a small, very part of him, knowing his dad's probably right. That I should probably go to rehab.
Yeah, so about the upbringing, that would have been very boring. I like that instead of doing that, they do these flashbacks.
Yeah.
Brilliant use of flashback. I love it. I think it's very sad, but it's very compelling, and it's better than, a whole 20 minutes.
Yeah, because all throughout that part one, it's talking about Nick's, being a really accomplished writer, joining the water polo team, getting into a very prestigious high school, his first excursion with drugs, how his dad found a little bit of marijuana, and then like Nick going to Paris. I do wish they would have included the Paris trip, because that is integral to Nick's story.
I see.
Because
movie's already 2 hours, man.
Barely.
Still.
But that is very integral to Nick's story, because he goes to Paris for a school trip, and when they pick him up, he's fucked up. Like really fucked up. Like they take him to a doctor and he's got an ulcer, and it's finally revealed in the scene, in the part of the story, but in the scene where, David's asking him like, when did this start? Mm-hmm. It's when he's in that really nice rehab place. Yeah. In the story, in David's memoir, Nick admits that while he was there, he was drinking wine, he was drinking beer, anything he could get his hands on.
Yeah.
And then taking ecstasy and, taking really hard drugs.
Yeah.
So that I would have liked to see, but I get why they left it out.
Or at least a notion of it.
Yeah. Well, but I get why they left it out.
Because David wasn't there. Right. And
True.
I think that's the big point, because this is more of his perspective. Right. So
right.
that would have been more. All right. Here's what would have been cool.
Okay.
Okay. And it is doable.
Okay.
Whether or not it's financially smart, but it's doable. Okay. There's a movie called The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby. Stay with me.
I know. It's got James McAvoy in it and Jessica Chastain, right?
There's 3 movies.
Yeah, I know. That hers, his, and theirs. Yeah, I know.
So I think it would have been really cool to get a David, a Nick
and then
a combination. You know what I mean?
But do you think Amazon's really got that kind of money?
No, but I think that would have been really interesting because it's adapted from 2 memoirs. I think
that's true.
Let's do 2 memoirs, man. Let's not pick and choose. Let's let people decide which perspective they want to watch.
Right.
You know what I mean? Which is sort of, that's nonsense. But I think that would have been really interesting. Really, it would have been a cool experience to be able to watch both and be like, oh, that's, and especially if you were to do them at the same time, to where you can.
Yeah, that would that'd been cool.
Anyway, that's just a suggestion, but that would have been really cool,
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, but it's a fascinating concept.
Neither have I. But
of a film. Anyway, back to David. So.
Well, I think now we're segueing into David.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so okay. David is a devoted father, but he is, in that scene in the diner, he is trying to control the situation, which I get Nick's somewhat side of it. But at the same time, it's like, well, how can you blame him?
Yeah.
Like, how could he not do whatever he possibly could to help his son?
I have a question.
Ask me your question.
There's a scene where David takes something out of a wallet and snorts it. What is it? Whose wallet is that? Is it his? Is it Nick's?
So that is something that's not mentioned in David's memoir.
Damn it, because I would like to think that, and what I thought was it was Nick's wallet he left. He found meth. He wants to know what it's like so he can
better understand. Because that's all he's wanting to do is to help. He needs to understand. And that's why he's doing all this research. He's going to doctors. Now, with that scene, though, I took it as, because there is a chapter that David talks about his drug use.
Well, and then they have that scene in the car where they're talking about David's drug use.
Well, and David's drug use is it's. I mean, Nick had it worse, but David, David lived throughout the 60s and 70s, so he did LSD, he did cocaine.
Yeah.
He drank. He said in the memoir he did meth once.
Interesting.
And he hated it. He said he never felt worse in his life. He was on edge.
Interesting. I would have.
So I think that's what that scene was supposed to.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think he wanted to know what it was like.
If that was Nick's wallet, I don't know. There wasn't enough information for me to understand. It was all nonverbal, so I don't know.
Yeah. But I definitely I think they did the scene because David wanted to know, why does he like this?
Even if let's say even if it was David's wallet and it was cocaine, it's still a stimulant, and so maybe he's let's get back into that mindset and let's see so I can help.
Yeah, and David, and that scene with the joint is exactly verbatim from David's book. David tells him well, the narration is, I smoke a little bit of pot every now and then, but not like he didn't actually say that to Nick, but and that's actually where David feels like he fucked up as a parent.
I see.
And that's a big part of David's book is parents take all the guilt. And so he feels like had he been more firm and told Nick to get rid of it and not smoked it with him, maybe he wouldn't have turned to meth. But then at the same time, he's like, but would he have still gone to meth anyway?
Right. I think, I like that. And again, Steve Carell.
Yeah, hang on. Shout out to Steve Carell.
Amazing performance by Steve Carell. And Timothy Chalamet. I think those guys are amazing in this film. And
you want to know something interesting?
Sure, yeah.
Timothy, I watched an interview with them today, and apparently they fanboyed over working with each other. And they were asked their favorite. The interviewer said, what's your favorite role from each person? Timothy said Foxcatcher for Steve.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Which I've never seen, but
it's good. I mean,
I've heard it's phenomenal.
It's good performance-wise. Movie-wise, it's fine, but performance-wise, it's amazing.
Well, yeah, I heard Channing, Mark, and Steve are amazing.
They were great. Yeah.
Steve said it was Beautiful Boy. He said Beautiful Boy was.
That's a cop out. That's a bullshit answer.
And he even says that. He's like, I know. He was like, I know, but he was like, he was like, Timothy. He's like, you. And Timothy was like, dude, thank you. but yeah, okay. We're done with the shout out.
So I like that there are moments where he just feels so guilty, Dave, right? But after a while, he does have his break where he's like, it can't be on me anymore, right? He does have that phenomenal scene where it's near the end-ish, when Nick calls him and Dave just says no, right? Like, no money, no, you can't come to the house. Like,
no, that's a little dramatized for the movie.
Okay.
In the book, I mean, it's kind of like that. In the book, David tells him, you know what you need to do. Because Nick is pleading with him.
Right.
Help me.
Yeah.
And David says, you know what you need to do. Call your sponsor.
Right, yeah.
Call Randy. And that's all he says.
Yeah.
And he tells him, he was like, I love you. You know what you need to do. And that's it.
Yeah.
So I understand that they had to dramatize it a little bit, but I mean, that is essentially kind of how it went. That David did finally put his foot down.
Yeah.
And said no.
He touched on it a little bit in the book, but the stealing, right?
Oh, dude.
Because he did steal from his dad a lot. And there's a lot of that in...
he stole checks.
In Nick's book, there's a lot of stealing. And we get half of a scene of him stealing, because then they don't steal it, but because they run away, except for the $8. That scene was hard, man, because
Speaking of the $8.
Yeah, go ahead.
I really wish they would have included this. There's a scene, there's a part in the book where it's after the big relapse.
Okay.
Sorry, I thought I was gonna burp. It's after the big relapse.
Yeah.
And it's about what I just talked about, where David says, "No, you know what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Call Randy. Call your sponsor." And Nick starts to get help again. And Nick is getting better, and he's like David's saying how he's calling us, telling us he's loving his life. Well, they decide. Karen, Nick's stepmom, decides that as a family they should go to Hawaii because they haven't had a trip as a family, and they should go to Hawaii. And David suggests. By this point, Nick had been pretty sober for a while, and he says, "Can Nick come?" And Karen agrees. And it was a big step for all of them. And while they're there, on their way to the hotel, Jasper, Nick's younger half-brother, asks him, "Are you going to do drugs again?" And Nick says, "No, I'm done with that." And then when they got back from Hawaii, like a week later, there was a letter for Jasper in the mail. And it was a letter from Nick. And pretty much telling him, "I love you. I will always love you. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so sorry." And it was $8.
Oh.
I really wish they would have included.
That's
Dude,
sweet.
that kind of got me. It was listening to it. And because he even says, like, "I know this will never make it up. Never make up the pain I caused you. But here's your $8.
Yeah, I think that's where in the movie, you understand how bad it is.
Yeah.
How bad the addiction is, right? Because, yeah, he's a great guy until he's doing drugs and he's an asshole, right?
Yeah.
Which is an oversimplification, but whatever. I think let's transition a little bit to the visual language of the film.
Okay.
So what this film does very well is it plays with your, how do I want to say it? Your not comfortability, your knowledge of previous films and how they work and how they look and how they feel. So when Nick gets sober, we get these shots of with the music in the background, with him going to college, and then it cuts to his dad and his wife painting and playing with the kids, and then he's going to class and he's meeting a girl, and then they're playing in the yard and whatever. We get this, and it's in any other movie, this would be the finale. This is the wrap up. This is everything's okay. But we're 30 minutes in.
Yeah.
Right? And we do this a few times where we get these sort of montages of everything's okay. Because, again, the filmmaker, whose name is Danish and I don't know how to say it.
At least we think he is. Future Rain hopefully will be paying attention.
Will correct me.
This far in, because I'm going to be honest, he's been slacking on his job. Every time I say we need a correction. So hopefully it'll be right here.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Anyway.
And he knows. Like, this guy knows the visual language of film. Or at least of traditional.
Well, and I love that we're talking about this because I did watch this featurette we were kind of talking about off mic. And you can find it. It's on YouTube. It's a featurette that Amazon made. And that's one of the things that the producers, even Timothée Chalamet, talks about is he understands human emotion.
Yeah.
And knows how to capture it.
Yeah.
And I would agree, you know?
Yeah, obviously. Because, when we see these things, it tricks us into going, everything's going to be okay.
But
right? Because we're so used to seeing this in film already.
Yeah.
Right? It's taking our previous knowledge and our exposure to films throughout our entire lives, and it's playing it against us by tricking us into thinking things are going to be okay, and it's not, because this movie just fucking started.
Yeah.
So, and again, it does this more than once. We do this maybe 3 times.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it does kind of, and it's almost sort of like like they're trying to desensitize you a little bit, like giving us a little bit of hope.
Yeah.
That things are going to be fine. Yeah, and but it also is very beautiful to see too. Like, because you do think like, oh great, everything's gonna be fine. Like when Nick relapses after being clean for over a year. You know, because he's driving away to go back to L.A. We should mention they all live in California, which is a big part of the book. Big part of the memoir.
San Francisco and LA.
San Francisco and Santa Monica and yeah. Oh, and they don't. Hang on, sorry, I just
Interrupted yourself.
I meant to bring this up earlier. I was a little disappointed when they talk about Nick's overdose in New York.
Mm-hmm.
That they weren't mentioning that he was living in New York at the time.
Mm.
He had moved to New York because some of his mom's friends. Well, I think if I remember correctly, Vicky had moved to New York for a little bit and recommended he come out there, and then that's where he OD'd. But anyway, it's besides the point.
Whatever.
But anyway, shit. Oh, I had lost my train of thought. Do you remember what I was saying?
Visual language, film. No. You interrupted yourself, and then you got us all
Yeah,
fucked.
I know. Oh well.
Whatever, man.
Oh, the driving away.
We got it.
The driving away. So that scene of Nick driving away. He's doing the whole hand out the window. And he sticks his head out the window. You think like, oh great, everything's gonna be fine, and then it
does it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
We in this like maybe the second or third time that, and it's Heart of Gold, right? Playing
Yes.
Neil Young. Yeah.
Yeah, but then we're getting these flashes of Nick's life, him graduating high school, and it's all too much for him. So kind of, I keep bringing up Requiem for a Dream, but shout out to Requiem for a Dream, where anytime, as I said in that episode, every time Jared Leto starts to feel something, he gets high.
Yeah.
And it's almost, that was sort of Nick's thing, is he's starting to feel depressed,
And
thinking about all these great moments in his life.
again, I didn't get this far. But I like that he calls Spencer in this book, Spencer, and then we never see him again, right? It's almost like, in my mind, and of course in the film's, narrative structure, it makes it feel like he called him, he lied to him, and then never saw him again, right? Almost completely severing that tie with hanging up that phone.
Yeah.
He knew, because he was calling Spencer, as a last ditch effort, please talk me out of it, right? And then near the end of that conversation, they're both having the same conversation, but really they're not, because Spencer's like, I got him, I'm gonna have dinner with him, I got him off the ledge, we're fine. And then Nick is like, this didn't work, I'm gonna relapse, I'm sorry. And they're having the same conversation, but they're completely different outcomes.
Well, and that's something in David's book, when he finally puts his foot down and tells Nick, no, call your sponsor, Randy Spencer, calls David, because Nick actually calls him. Calls Randy.
Okay.
Well, this is before this is after, Nick's deep into his big relapse.
Yeah.
And Randy Spencer calls David and was like, I just heard from him. I've got him. And I'm going to take care of him. And he does. Which is something I wish we would have seen.
Yeah, because, well, I do like that sort of, I mean, it's sad, but I like it in an emotional way and in a character way that we're done, right?
Yeah.
And we never see him again.
Yeah, we never
and
see
it almost
Spencer.
feels like, that was, I don't know why I like that. I do.
Well,
but
it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, for you, but
I like sad things. So.
yeah, but man, and Nick in the movie, Nick has every opportunity to stop. We've seen him hit bottom multiple times, steals from his family, even breaks back into their home, which is a portion of the book as well. But it's not until witnessing Lauren's OD does he finally sort of, I guess, get it. Like, he still keeps using after that, but I feel like the movie version, there's a little part of him that knows I need to stop, but he can't because I don't think it's a thing of he doesn't know how. I don't think he wants to.
There is. It was either in the. If you heard the book, I apologize to the audience that I keep referencing the book because this isn't a book podcast, but
That's fine.
He mentions that he's terrified to stop because of how painful it's going to be.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's a big part of David's book is telling the listener or the reader about Nick's pain.
Well, and that's a big part of the film's narrative is David trying to figure out not only emotionally how to deal with it, but physically what's happening to him, right? He goes to great cameo from Timothy Hutton.
Before he got canceled.
He goes to the doctors and like, okay, tell me physically, biologically what is happening to him.
See, and I really like that scene because in the book, it just sounds like David is reading articles.
Oh, okay.
About what methamphetamine
Which
does.
also he does.
He
right?
does. Yeah, but I really liked this personification of him actually talking to an expert.
Yeah.
I like that.
And him explaining it to him
And showing him like
right. Literally what's happening.
But in the conversation he and Karen have, David and Karen, about how Nick can recover, happens in the book. That, of course, it's not a conversation he's having. It's more of like a thought. Nick can recover. It may take him 2 years, but he can recover if he just stops. But yeah.
And there is even this sort of connection with the two of them that sort of in a sort of morbid way bonds them is their need for knowledge and need for research, because also in the book, but in the movie, I love that they touched on this. He looks up how to properly inject heroin into a vein. He looks that up in the library. Do you remember?
Yeah.
He did that for real. Which is such, in police terms, it's first degree. Like this is forethought. You know what I mean? Like he knows he's going to. He just wants to do it safely, or at least the best way he can. Right? He doesn't want to fuck it up. And so, I love that he goes to the library and just Googles how to do it.
Yeah,
right?
he doesn't worry about all the other students around
No,
him.
he looks around. But, I love that sort of that need for knowledge and need to understand sort of bonds the two of them in this new way, right? It's terrible because they're, one's trying to figure out how to save his son and
the other's trying to
ruin his life, right?
Yeah.
And in the book, it goes into detail about him, like, searching for veins and digging around in there. It's gross, but
I do like that we don't really see any of his track marks until his second OD.
Whew, and there's a bunch.
Yeah. Now I don't remember in David's book of him ODing twice. I remember the one in New York where David goes to get him and he's gone.
Honestly, the way the movie is set up and the way the narrative is laid out, it's hard for me to remember what comes before what.
Yeah.
It might just be because I'm dumb, but I watched it yesterday. But it's the hindrance of watching a movie just once for this.
Yeah.
So this season's gonna be full of that, but it's hard for me to remember this came before this, but this came after that, right?
Yeah.
In terms of, because it's not really jumping back and forth necessarily, besides the flashbacks, which are easily spotted, right? Because it's a different actor, but
Yeah.
To me, it's like, oh fuck, did that come before the Lauren OD'd or whatever? So I'm glad you're here for that.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Speaking of the part I was talking about in David's memoir of, Nick and Jasper talking, I do love that scene where they're talking together, where Nick is like, "Is it weird for you, me being back?" And, Jasper's like, "Oh, I thought it was going to be a little weird, but you're still the same old Nick." And it was just so...
It's sweet, the two of them together.
Yeah.
On the beach, right? Yeah.
From what I gather from David's memoir, Nick loves his half-siblings, Jasper and Daisy.
Are they twins?
No, they're 2 years apart. Because a part in the David's memoir, he mentions how
it couldn't matter.
Jasper's 9 and Daisy's 7.
It couldn't matter. in the least. But I just, in the movie they looked like twins to me.
Yeah.
Because they're curly blonde hair.
Yeah. But man,
Okay. I need to hammer this down. I need to understand if I like this movie or not, because there are things about it that I love, right?
Yeah.
I love the performances. I love that visual language of, taking what we know about movies and, using it against us. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a reason I'm on the fence. I just don't know why. I don't know why I'm on the fence, because I should love it, and I don't know why I don't. I don't know why it's not a slam dunk for me.
Well, let me ask you this, man.
Sure.
What was your favorite part of the film, and then what was your least favorite part?
Okay. That's a good one.
I mean, while you're thinking, I'll tell you one of my favorite parts of the movie was the diner scene. I was this special little thing to you, and now I'm not. And he's like, well, who are you, Nick? This is me, Dad. This is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I like that so much is because even though he's quote unquote 5 days sober, Nick,
he's not.
He's not. Nick is so confident that this is who he is.
Right.
And it's rough. Which is kind of a contradiction. I said it's one of my favorite parts, but it's rough to see this father who doesn't know how to help, and the son who is in denial. And I would say my least favorite part is a lot of the major things in David's memoir that they kind of left out or just sort of glazed over real quick.
So it's sort of omissions you don't like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I understand that they couldn't adapt everything from David's memoir. Otherwise, it would have been a 4-hour-long movie.
They could have, but that's fine. We've discussed how.
But, it's mentioned very briefly, when Nick goes to college and Nick's roommate is into, essentially basic white music. Because Nick is, because it's a big point in the book.
52nd Street's a really good album, by the way. He lives it. It's Billy Joel.
Nick's into Nirvana.
Yeah.
And he's into, more punk music. And Nick, which is verbatim from the book where Nick says, oh, don't worry, I'll educate him. So things like that, I was about, but I mean, on the whole, I really loved it.
Yeah.
Again, like I said at the top of the show, stories of fathers and sons, it hits home for me.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I think one of my favorite parts is, it's a flashback. It's the airport, right?
Oh, fuck.
I love you more than everything. And then, he's everything. He goes, everything, right? That's sweet. It's cute.
Well, and
it's so sad in the context of the scene.
Oh,
right?
that's in the scene. That's what made me cry. I was just in tears. Well, and that is Nick and David's thing.
Yeah.
Because in that featurette, David talks about when we would tell each other everything, that would mean feeling all the sadness, all the joy. That's what it meant.
Yeah.
And it's yeah.
Yeah. So I really liked that because in the context of the scene, he's in an airport, right? He is going to get his son, or at least try.
Well, he's dropping 6-year-old Nick off.
Well, that's the flashback. I'm talking in modern day. No, in the time period that the movie is in.
Oh, okay.
He's in an airport. That's where the memory comes from, I believe. Again,
yes,
I'm bad at this.
I think it's when he
it's early.
When he's trying to get to New York,
Mm-hmm.
or after he'd been told Nick checked himself out,
right?
And he doesn't know what else to do but to go home,
mm-hmm.
And then that triggers
that memory.
The memory of having to drop Nick off, and
And again, I like that. Obviously it's my favorite, but it's the first thing that came to mind. Least favorite. It'd be hard because there's nothing that, again, for me to really dislike something, I have to hate it or be angry. And nothing made me angry. Nothing made me.
Okay, then let me
sick.
rephrase the least favorite as more of the scene that you were about, or the thing that you were
Yeah,
about.
it'd probably have to be a thing. I don't think it'd be a specific scene necessarily because things work. That's why I'm so conflicted. Because it's a great question. Because I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I'm conflicted on the ending because I like the fact that it ends on a low note, which I like. Right?
Yeah, Nick has finally hit bottom. But his dad David is still there for him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that scene almost got me too, where they're just sitting silently in the courtyard at the rehab facility.
And it's almost as if David is trying to keep his distance this time, right? He, helps him out the door into his seat, but he's not touching him, right? Not really. I think he's got a hand on his shoulder, maybe.
Not yet.
Not yet, right?
Not yet. David said, I think it's one of those. They don't know. They're playing a game of chicken. Who's going to be the first one to talk?
And I can understand this completely. It's now that there's been a pattern, he's tired of the back and forth. David is, right? He's tired of this is the last time. He's tired of, I'm going to do better.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's got him the first couple times, and now it's like, well, those were lies, right? Or not lies, but he didn't follow through, right? And so you can see that in his performance, which I love, right?
Yeah. And then, of course, Nick, trying to stay strong, I guess, knowing how badly he messed up.
Yeah.
But then finally breaks and hugs his dad, and then that's when David hugs him back. Yeah, more of a, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You're still my son.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're still my son. But yeah, I get, ending it like that,
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit like, oh, it's over, right? Like, interesting.
Okay.
The text was almost unnecessary.
Yeah, because they did, and I understand why they did it. They focused more on how rehab facilities are underfunded.
Yep.
Which they are. Because that's a big thing with Nick and David now.
Yep.
Is we as a country do not have the resources to help people with addiction. And I get that. And I get that they're trying to make awareness for that. And I'm sure that's probably something David and Nick really was like, hey,
of course, push for.
please.
100%. I believe that.
And I get that.
Yeah.
I really do. But I agree. Yes, we need a catch up. How's Nick now? Because this is supposed to be 2005.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how's Nick now?
Yeah.
And, of course, we get the, Nick is now happily 8 years sober, which, of course, it's relative to when the movie came out. Which would be so that was 2018, so then he fully got sober 2010 then.
So he still has 5 years of, relapsing, right?
Yeah.
Which is, if it was 2005, it's hard to pinpoint because there's a time where Katrina was happening and they're watching it on the TV, right?
Yeah.
In that hotel room, right? And so you can kind of pinpoint.
The book fast forwards through a lot of the years.
Right.
And stuff like that.
I don't know. I'm struggling with, and I don't know why. Who cares if I like it or not? But there are things I love about the movie. I just don't know if I love the movie, and it might just be because I've seen a million of these.
Sarah, I'll tell you what. I gave it. I went back and forth on this for a little bit. I almost gave it a 3.5 on my letterbox. I gave it a 4.
Okay. 3.5 sounds right. To me,
I might change it to 3.5. I didn't hate the movie.
No.
I did love it.
There are things to love about this movie, and I've talked about those. I just think that, and we usually don't do this. We usually don't talk about if we like it or not. Who fucking cares? But
I've mentioned on the podcast of, dude, I didn't like this movie.
I don't know if we've spent this much time on it, but I struggle with my thoughts because there's something about it that it's just like it's not hitting me the way it should.
Maybe you need a second rewatch.
Maybe.
And then when we do next week's episode, you can be like, hey, update.
Maybe. It's not
I love the movie now.
It's not going to be that soon. Got more movies to watch.
Yeah.
before then. Again, the performance is spot on. Loved them. There is no one better to play a drug addict than Timothy Chalamet.
Because he already looks
lost weight for this movie.
He looks
Where?
exactly the same.
Where did he lose it? I don't know. He said he lost 18 pounds for this movie.
Is that dangerous for him?
Yes.
He's already so skinny?
Yes, it's got to be. Because, dude, in Dune, I'm like, Jesus, put a shirt on.
I know, thank God.
Jesus Christ, you're going to die.
Thank God Denis did not have him without a shirt on a lot of the times.
Yeah, too much, because I'm like, Jesus Christ. Dude's rail thin, so...
Yeah, man.
But again, no one better.
Yeah,
to play
he
Drug
did great. And of course, as what I was kind of showing you with that featurette, he talked to Nick about, how does it feel?
Yeah.
And we see that. We see on his face the euphoria, the holy shit, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Especially when he does it when he's at college and
Yeah.
he's just kind of roaming around. And he's just like,
In his silly hat.
dude, I love the hat.
All right.
I gotta have one.
The screenwriter is also a recovering drug addict.
I learned that in that featurette as well because he actually didn't want to do it. Because once he learned the subject matter, he was like,
Ooh.
But then when he was told about the project is right around the time our boy, Philip Seymour Hoffman, passed away. And the screenwriter's dad said, I'm so glad you're still here. And that was kind of like the ping to him, like, I have to do this.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's one of those instances where these two gentlemen wrote books that, and I find this fascinating that, they wrote books about their life and neither of them were like well known or anything. It's not like, you know what I mean? Like these are just average people. I mean, one of them is a freelance writer for magazines or whatever, but that's...
Well, and that's how it started. David's book started as an article he wrote for the New York Times.
Makes sense.
And then it was so well received that he was offered a book deal.
Yeah.
And wrote it into a book. And then Nick was reached out to and was like, hey, would you like to tell your story? And so Nick has written 2 books, Tweak and When We All Fall Down. And then, right around the time of the movie's release, they wrote a book together called High, which it's more about what people go through with addiction, like the family, the person themselves.
Gotcha.
And then, of course, Nick has now written a couple novels himself, and apparently he's writing for TV now. As I told you, he's...
Okay, so Tweak is obviously his side of the story. What is... And We All Fall Down. What more could he have done?
I think it's more about addiction.
I see.
I think it's just about maybe...
It's not necessarily
about his story. I think
it.
it's just more about addiction and about
Got it.
why he wanted to get high and maybe, I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
I briefly read a little blurb about it on Barnes & Noble because I thought he'd only written Tweak and then started writing novels.
Right.
But then on Barnes & Noble I found that. I was like, oh, okay, he wrote 2 books.
Yeah. Shout out to Audible. They're free on Audible.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. They're free to me.
Why, do you have the plus?
Mom must have gotten it. I don't know. I'm on her account, so...
No, I had to well, luckily I asked Mom
Do you have credits?
to gift it to me. She has credits,
Nice.
so she gifted it to me.
Okay, cool. She must have some sort of like wild...
I think she's probably got the premium.
Yeah, my mom's probably like... She's
one,
balling out on that Audible because I'm like, oh shit, I can just download it? Holy shit.
Yeah, I was really
stoked.
excited. Then I got on there. I was like, yeah, purchase now by signing up for Audible Plus or whatever it's called. And I was like, well, fuck that.
Dude,
I'm not
mom's
doing it.
balling out. I don't know what she's doing over there, man. But she got money.
So Jeremy, are you ready to wrap up?
I am. I don't know my feelings yet. And you know what? That's okay.
I mean, that's fine.
We'll
we'll
end that the way the movie ended. We'll just to be continued.
just cut it now.
Yeah. Pre-sentence or mid-sentence.
Like, my favorite bit from Family Guy. What, it's gonna be like The Sopranos? Just cut it mid-sit. Yeah.
Technically, it was mid-lyric, but yeah. God, I love The Sopranos. Okay, so I liked the movie. Don't know if I loved it. I probably don't. And
that's fine.
again, performance is amazing. I think the story's compelling. I think it'd be cool to get 2 movies instead of 1 out of it. I think that would have been rad.
Timothy Chalamet, if you're listening, go back to Nick and be like, "Yo, dog, we're gonna redo this."
It's too late.
Nah, it's never too late.
It's too late. You ruined it. No, it was great. I just don't know how I feel.
I mean, I'll follow. I can. Oh, it's not like I'll never see you again. We'll always.
That's true.
I'll always follow back up with you and be like, "Did you rewatch it?"
The answer's going to be no for a while.
Yeah, man. I love the performances. I love seeing a comedic actor take on a dramatic role. And Steve Carell, and of course, Steve has been doing a little bit more serious.
Yeah,
roles.
Steve Carell's been doing dramas for a while now. Big Short. Got to see that. You
Well,
gotta
it's,
see
on,
Big
it's,
Short?
on, it's on the.
Is it still?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not on my list for this season anymore because
Right.
at least I don't think it is.
We've switched.
Yeah.
We've tweaked it. I've tweaked mine. So, and it's not done. I'll probably do it again.
Dear God. But yeah, man. I mean, and it's just again, kind of shout out to our Goofy movie episode. Just fathers and sons, man.
They get you.
They get you.
Yeah.
But so, buddy, what are we going to talk about next week?
That's a great question.
You said I'll know, which I'm worried, but
You'll figure it out. Because you don't have it yet, but you will. Next week we are talking about. We are discussing. Hold on, let's see if I can get it. I can't. I don't remember all their names. Anyway, it's the Marx Brothers. We're going to be talking about Duck Soup. Yeah. It's Harpo, Groucho. Shit. It doesn't matter. We're going to be talking about Duck Soup. We're really changing it up because
Is this a comedy?
Yeah.
Wait, you've chosen a comedy?
From the 1930s, yeah.
Nice.
It's not only a comedy, it's a comedy musical.
Sweet Jesus.
All of their movies were musicals, at least to an extent. I'm excited, man. I would live over half my life that I've lived right now when I noticed his mustache was grease paint.
Yeah, I feel like I read that somewhere. Speaking of the Marx Brothers, and then we can end the episode. You never saw me like this, thank God, because looking back, I'm like, why did I do that? I did something crazy with my hair a while back where people who are watching will see, I shaved all of this.
Oh, yeah.
And kept all this on top.
Yo!
And I would put it up in a samurai bun because I would just keep this part growing.
Sure.
Well, I went to bed one night with it still pulled up. And when I woke up the next morning, my hair was parted and curly. And I was like, holy shit, I look like one of the Marx Brothers.
Yeah, like Groucho. That's hilarious. So it was like the Jake Gyllenhaal cut in Prisoners, like that shit?
Pretty much, yeah. But see, the problem is I didn't slick my hair back. And my hair gets really curly and wavy. So the longer it got, it was like... And so finally...
That's a shame.
What made me decide to stop doing that is when shortly after I proposed to Ashley and then got my job at Best Buy, I started growing it back out again. At least to a point where I could go get it cut and it would all be even.
Ashley still dated you with your haircut like that?
She actually really liked it.
Oh, wow. You should do it again. Why not?
No.
Maybe do it and then slick it back like Jakey G.
But the problem was I kept growing it.
Yeah,
so
see,
it was
that's the
getting
problem. You
longer
gotta
and
keep
longer.
getting it cut.
Yeah, no.
Once a month, bro.
No, I'm never. No.
No?
Never do that.
It is the coolest haircut, I think. On Jake Gyllenhaal. I think it's so dope. In Prisoners, like, I was like, dude, how can I can't because my hair gets also too curly and wavy.
No, I'll never do it again. But anyway.
Understand.
Anyway. Well,
so next week, Marx Brothers.
All right. Duck Soup. Yeah, I know you sent me the thing.
Considered to be one of the greatest movies of all time. It's AFI's, I think.
Dude,
I think it's top 10.
I'm going to be real.
On AFI's top 100.
We're going to end it with this real quick. There's too many movies that have gotten the greatest movie of all time.
I know, right? I said one of, but it's, it's up there on AFI's top 100. I think it's like top 10 on their list. It's a political satire of the time.
No, well, of course. Everyone's making political satire.
Yeah, everyone is. Golly. I know.
Anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed Beautiful Boy. I hope it wasn't as heavy as I was thinking it might be.
To me, it was a little more chaotic. We were trying to pinpoint. Who cares? Whatever. You listen to it. I don't care. Zach.
Yeah, I was going to say Zach's the only one listening.
That's true.
But anyway, again, we hope you enjoyed Beautiful Boy, and we will see you next week for Duck Soup.